My friend snuck off the resort in Jamaica to meet up with a guy. Male-centered women are dangerous, okay? And this is the same girl from my last story time where I talked about how she came to visit me in Miami and then linked up with a dude that she knew there, and I never seen her for the rest of the trip. She came to see me in Miami, but ditched me for a guy, okay? Crazy story. So this was my birthday trip to Jamaica, okay? And let me preface this. We gotta go back. Okay, so we had went to Houston for my sister's birthday earlier in the year, right? And during that trip, so we all were, after the trip, we all got to the airport. We all were flying to different places. Me to Miami, my sister to Jacksonville, another girl to Chicago. Like, we all were going to different places. This girl was going to Georgia. But her flight got canceled because we all had morning flights. She had an afternoon flight. Her flight got canceled because the weather ended up getting really bad. And she had to stay for another day. Well, she met a man in the airport while having drinks. And instead of going home, she flew back to the West Coast with him. And that was a whole different story, whatever the case. But before we went to Jamaica, I was like, listen, girl, that activity, we cannot do that on my birthday trip. We are going out the country. So if you meet a dude that you think is cute, that's fine. But all of this going with a man, we're not doing that in a different country, okay? So it was 4 of us went to Jamaica, me, my friend, my sister, and her friend. So on the second day, we were on the beach, and y'all know with the resorts in Jamaica, they have private beaches. Well, these guys pulled up to the beach on Jamaica, at the resort we were staying at, on jet skis, and they were like, hey, do y'all want to ride jet skis? How much it is? And so we were like, yeah, we're going to ride jet skis. So we ended up going with these dudes to go ride the jet ski place and, you know, riding the jet skis. She took a liking to one of the guys who was like working or whatever. I guess it was his company. She took a liking to him and they exchanged numbers. Okay, that's fine. But now everything is now changing to how she can see him again. Like, this is my birthday trip, okay? I don't care about this Negro. Like, we're not about to change anything so that you can link up with him. So that night we were going out and she was like, oh, he told me about this club. Let's go here. He said he'll come get us. No. We're like, we can meet him there, but no, we're not gonna go with him in the car. We don't know this man. So whatever the case, we go to have like the lunch at lunch in the little buffet or whatever. Me and my sister end up going back to the room because my sister forgot something or whatever. And then her and the other girl stayed at the buffet. Now, this other girl doesn't know her. She does not know what she did in Houston. So she don't know the girl is like that. Well, apparently, according to this girl, she pretended like, you know, she was going to get more food, like getting up to go get more food, and she left. She left with the dude. Now, it's one thing if you were just like, I'm grown, I'm gonna do what I want, I don't care that y'all don't like it, but don't sneak and do nothing, and we're here together, and if something happens to you, we don't know where you're at, we're in a different country, you don't have your passport, we got it, like, that's just not safe. And again, this is my trip. Why are you trying to change everything, like, to be around a dude, like, that you don't even know? So I'm irritated, whatever. We end up, she comes back or whatever, she's like, oh, we just run around and smoke, don't be mad at me, you're dumb. So I ain't mad that you're dumb, I'm mad that you're doing this dumb shit on my birthday trip, where, you know, we're supposed to stay together. If something happens to you, they're gonna say, why did y'all let her go by herself? Like, that's the problem. So we end up going out that night. The guys came or whatever. Did not ride in the car with them, but whatever. The next day, she tries to pull the same stunt, but I'm on to you. So we had got up, you know, had breakfast, and we were at like the little swim up bar. Y'all, we was towed up by freaking noon, okay? We were towed up, cutting up in the people resort, right? She texts a guy and tells him to come get her, but he's doing his work on the jet ski. So he pulls up on a jet ski to come get her. No, sir. No, sir. So she's drunk, like running off the dock to try to like get on this man's jet ski.
Back in 2021, her friend wanted to go to Atlanta for her 21st birthday. It was supposed to be Michaela's friend, and Michaela's friend's little sister. They were planning on getting a rental car and an Airbnb, but then Michaela went on to say that something happened to where none of them could put either in their name, and so the friend's older cousin, who was in her 30s, offered to put everything in her name as long as she could also go on the trip. So Michaela, her friend's little sister, and the friend's older cousin are all on the phone talking about the trip one day when all of a sudden the older cousin starts talking about, oh, when we get out there, we're not doing all that drunk shit, so on and so forth. Michaela said it was at that point she realized that this might be an issue because that's exactly what her and her friends were planning on going out there to do. I think the exact word she used was, what makes you think a bunch of 21-year-olds aren't going to go out and get drunk? Michaela lets it go, time passes, and then everybody starts paying for their portion of the trip. The day of the trip comes, and then Michaela goes on to say that her money didn't post on her card like it was supposed to, and it wasn't going to post until the next day. Michaela claims that she had paid for her part of everything at that point except for the rental and the Airbnb, the two most important parts. The older cousin ends up telling Michaela that she'll just pay for everything on her card and she can just pay her back whenever her money posts. So they're headed to the airport. It's 56 minutes away from where Michaela lives, and Michaela said that the older cousin was taking her slow, sweet time getting them to the airport. You see, because Michaela, the friend, and the friend's little sister were flying Delta, but the older cousin was flying Spirit. And the older cousin's flight had been delayed, and so Michaela felt as though the older cousin was moving slow, trying to purposely make them miss their flights so she didn't have to stay at the airport by herself. They finally make it to the airport. They try to rush and make it to their flight, but they end up being too late and they miss it. That's when they decide to go to McDonald's while waiting for the next flight to arrive, but then they end up getting into it with one of the McDonald's workers. So at this point, the friend's little sister says that she's just going to have somebody come and pick her up because at this point she's having a bad feeling about the trip. But they eventually convince the little sister to stay, and then the new flight arrives. Now at this point, the older cousin's flight had already left, so she made it to Atlanta before anybody else. Michaela's assuming that since the older cousin's going to get there first, she's going to go ahead and get the rental, she's going to go ahead and get the Airbnb, so on and so forth. So their flight lands, the older cousin hasn't done shit. So they go get the rental, they finally make it to the Airbnb. They can't figure out how to get inside of the Airbnb at first, but they finally make it inside, they get their bags in, they finally start to settle down. Michaela says that her and her friends at this point are annoyed because they're tired and they're hungry. And then the cousin comes in the house and she ends up picking the biggest room, and she says it's because she's the oldest, but Michaela said that she felt as though the birthday girl should get the biggest room. Michaela gets annoyed, she ends up going into the room that she's staying in, she closes the door, but then she says that she hears the older cousin start talking shit about her. So Michaela walks out the bedroom into the hallway, and this is when Michaela drops the bomb on us that she's actually currently 15 weeks pregnant during this story time. She's like, who the F are you talking to? The cousin goes off and starts screaming like, I'm talking to you, you're walking around here with an attitude, you're slamming doors, so on and so forth. And Michaela says that she can slam a door if she wants to because she's grown AF. The cousin tells Michaela that she can get out the Airbnb, and Michaela tells the cousin that she can put her out. So the cousin gets annoyed, she grabs the keys to the Airbnb and the rental, and she leaves. So then they decide to smoke inside the Airbnb even though they weren't supposed to, as like a form of revenge against the older cousin because it was in her name and she's going to be the one to have to pay the fee. The cousin eventually comes back with food, but she's only got food for herself, which sets Michaela off again. Then the cousin gets mad, asking them if they're smoking inside the house because she can smell it, and Michaela's like, yeah, we are. And so the cousin picks up the phone and calls 911. The cousin's on the phone with the cops telling them that Michaela, the friend, and the friend's little sister all have weapons and are trying to attack her, but Michaela claims that it was the cousin that was actually trying to attack her, and she says that the cousin was in her face telling her that she would beat the baby out of her. The friend ends up taking the rental keys from the older cousin. She tells Michaela and the little sister that they're leaving, but then Michaela and the little sister say they're not going anywhere. The older cousin follows the friend outside of the Airbnb. They tussle and fight over the keys, so on and so forth, a whole debacle. And then eventually, Michaela, the friend, and the little sister agree that they're just going to get an Uber and leave and try to find somewhere else to stay. So they're sitting outside on their bags. Eventually, the older cousin calls some family members or some friends or something and has them call Michaela, the friend, and the little sister to let them know that she said they could come back inside. But at that point, they were over it and they weren't going back in there. They eventually go to a Red Roof Inn and say that they're going to try to enjoy the rest of their trip, but they eventually decide to just go home because they feel as though the trip's been ruined because everything that they had originally planned to do, they couldn't do anymore. So they get in an Uber to head to the airport. Michaela says that she's scared of getting kidnapped, so she turns her GPS on to make sure that the driver's going in the right direction, but then she notices that he turns down this dark road. Michaela starts arguing with the driver. The driver claims that he's just taking a shortcut. Michaela says, well, the GPS is telling me that you're supposed to be going in a different direction. She ends up threatening to choke the man. He threatens to put them out the car. They're going back and forth, but then he eventually gets them to the airport and he drops them off. They end up having to sleep on their bags inside of the airport overnight. Now, Michaela's money finally posts, and instead of paying the cousin back for her portion of the rental in the Airbnb, she instead uses that money to book a ticket home. But during the flight home, Michaela decided that she wanted revenge against the cousin for threatening to beat the baby out of her, so Michaela, the friend, and the little sister all come up with a plan. So the flight lands back home. Michaela, the friend, and the little sister go and find the older cousin's car in the parking garage. Pop her tires, pour orange juice in her gas tank, kick in her dashboard, break her rearview mirrors, so on and so forth. A friend that they had called to pick them up from the airport was there, so when they got done with the vandalism, they got in that friend's car and they all left. So the cousin eventually makes it back home. She sees that her car is messed up, and Michaela says that the cousin was like hysterical and crying and super upset, but Michaela didn't feel bad because she felt as though that's what she deserved. And then she went on to make a follow-up video because people were criticizing her for drinking and smoking while 15 weeks pregnant, and she went on to say that she actually wasn't drinking and smoking and she can't even stand the smell of alcohol, and when she said we were going to smoke and drink, she didn't really mean we. Then she made another follow-up video because people were criticizing her for going on a trip when her money hadn't even posted yet, and she went on to say that her friend, nor the friend's little sister had any of their money until the day of the trip, and the only reason hers didn't post until the next day was because she didn't certify early enough or something. I don't know what that means. She said it was during the pandemic when they were all on unemployment and she certified late, and so her money didn't post until the day after, but she was not the only one who didn't have the money until the day of the trip. But that's the breakdown, you guys. Love you. Bye.
You're on a trip in New Orleans with your friends, and the birthday girl has a birthday dinner. So you and your friends get ready for the birthday dinner, you get dressed, and you go to the courtyard of the hotel to take pictures, on the G7X. You're taking your time with your friends, and then you realize, where's my personal phone? Because you have a business and personal phone. But then you just assume, oh, it's upstairs. So you ask one of your friends, when you go upstairs, can you please bring my phone down? She says yes. She goes upstairs. She's looking for it. Can't find it. She calls back on the business phone and asks you, hey, are you sure it's in here? You tell her, yeah, it's in here. I'm tracking it. It says it's upstairs. Then she says, hey, can you check one more time because I can't find it anywhere. So you check on Find My iPhone and you see your phone walking away a mile away from you. You realize your phone has been stolen. You and your friends are about to go to dinner. You don't know who has it. You don't know where you left it. This really surprises you because you're the one that holds everyone's phone and wallets and your sisters and your siblings. You're the responsible one. How do you lose your phone? Well, it's because earlier you and your friend were sitting eating beignets, enjoying New Orleans, and you left it on the bench of a park. So now you're panicking because not only is your credit cards in there, but also your ID, which you can't fly back without an ID. So you start to panic and you break the news to your friends, and everybody starts to help. You walk a mile away from your hotel and track the phone down. It says that it's getting on the ferry. Ferry means the water. So you start panicking even more and start power walking. At this point, you're certain that it's lost. You're for sure saying, yeah, somebody took it, it's stolen, and kind of giving up as you're walking to the place. But then you get to the place and you see your phone on the bench, but someone has it. And it's a homeless man sitting down. You don't want to assume that he has it. Also, it's 5 girls. Why would you go up to a man? You don't know if he has anything. You just kind of have, it's nighttime. Did I mention it's 10 p.m.? It's also Saturday night, so you don't know if the police will show up or not. So you sit and wait, and then one of your friends has that idea to ask somebody, like a security guard, the Caesar's Palace, to go ask him for help. They say no. Now you're just standing waiting for a man to walk by to hopefully help you get your phone back. So as you and your friends are standing, the man just keeps peeking under his blanket. And so you kind of get scared and you just kind of, stand back until somebody else is there to help you get your phone back. So you ask about 3 men and none of them want to help you. You're also feeling guilty because the birthday girl's dinner is supposed to be happening right now, but you were irresponsible. Lost your phone, now everybody's waiting. But then you and your friends see a man walking to his car. Now as you approach him, he's really kind. He says, "Hey ladies, how are you?" Then you say, "We have a dilemma." He says, "What's your dilemma?" You tell him your dilemma and ask him, "Hey, can you help us get the phone back from this man?" So he goes, "Yes, sure." God sent. He probably was an angel. So the man goes up to him and asks, "Hey sir, I lost my phone on this bench. Have you happened to see it?" The man who has your phone says, "Oh yes, I was waiting for you to come and get it, so I was just holding it for you." You feel the biggest relief. And it was God's protection because you finally got your phone back and flew back home.
Put a finger down if you and one of your closest friends went to Miami for a girls trip, and despite popular opinion, you guys had a successful girls trip and you guys didn't have any drama. But all hell broke loose on your way home because instead of getting a direct flight, you guys booked your flights back home 6 a.m. the morning that you were supposed to leave. So you had 3 stops before you got back home. From Miami to Fort Lauderdale, from Fort Lauderdale to Orlando, from Orlando to DC, and from DC to New York. And when you got to Orlando airport, there was a whole bunch of drama because your friend had TSA pre-check, but you didn't. So you had to pay for TSA clear, which was $189, but you lost your ID. Luckily, you brought your passport, so you used your passport and you signed up for clear and you got to the gate successfully. And you guys decided to check in your carry-on bags because you didn't want to have extra bags on you. So all you had was your personal bags on you. And then you board the flight successfully, you sit on the flight and you're on the tarmac for an extra hour because there's a random storm in Orlando and all planes are grounded. So you're in the plane with a whole bunch of other people and you guys aren't even sitting next to each other. And then people are getting off the plane because we're just sitting on the plane for an hour, so we get off too to get food. We try to call United Airlines, but United Airlines is not helping us with our connecting flight, and the connecting flight that we had in DC was 50 minutes after we were supposed to get there, so we already missed that flight. We eventually got to DC 4 hours later and it was 1 a.m. in the morning and there was no way for us to go. Then United Airlines said that the next flight that they could get you on was 24 hours the next day at 10 p.m. and all you guys had was your personal bags on you. To make matters worse, they said they couldn't even put you in a hotel, so you were stranded in Washington, D.C. and you have never been there before, so you don't know anybody there. Because there was mechanical failures and other people's flights got canceled, all their hotels were booked in the area. So you guys decided to stay in a motel, but the motel was so disgusting and shady. When you guys get into the room smells like cigarettes even though you paid for a non-cigarette room, and the lights won't even turn on, and you guys are terrified of bedbugs, so you guys have to sleep on top of the covers in a disgusting room in the middle of a very shady random place. And even though you guys checked into the motel at 3 a.m. in the morning, they told you still had to check out at 11 a.m. So you guys were homeless for a whole day in Washington, D.C. And the worst thing about it is that you guys went from staying in a $1,000 a night hotel in Miami to a motel in the middle of nowhere with crackheads outside. You lock all the doors and sleep in fear. And then the next morning you guys go to an IHOP just to get breakfast, but you guys are still homeless in a random state, so you don't know what to do. So after IHOP, you guys decide to take an Uber to a nearby theater, and you decide to watch the Minions movie, but there's still hours before your flight. So you're still living out of your personal bags with no toothpaste, no shampoo, no soap, no nothing. And you hop from movie theater to movie theater, just sitting in each theater, falling asleep until it's finally time to go to your flight, and then you get to the airport. You go from your airport to the gate and you still have to wait an extra 4 hours for your flight. Then you finally get on the plane and you get scared because the flight isn't taking off the tarmac. You end up leaving later than your original leave time and you land back in LaGuardia, New York. But because you guys missed your original flight and both checked 2 bags each, your bags were nowhere to be found at the airport. So then you had to go to United Airlines to find your bags, and luckily they had your bags. And you had to give them tickets of proof to get your bags that you had not had for 2 days. And you finally made it back home to New York and were finally able to shower, brush your teeth, comb your hair, and sleep in an area without crackheads.
A shirtless man broke into our Airbnb at 3:50 in the morning on Saturday. It was a girls trip. We're just a group of girls in our 30s, traveled to Nashville, where we booked an Airbnb. It was at an apartment complex type style. We were staying in a 1-bedroom unit, and the layout of the place was a couple beds in the living space, or like the main area, so we could very clearly see the door to the unit. At 3:50 in the morning, he knocked for several minutes. Unsure exactly how long that happened, because it was one of those situations where you're kind of like in and out of sleep and wondering if you're still dreaming. 2 of the girls heard that light knocking, kind of like a tapping sound. Then a few of us heard that, followed by basically like the very distinct sound of the digital lock unlocking. And that's what caused 3 of the girls, including myself, to sit up in bed and look to see what was going on. Honestly, my initial thought when I sat up was, what time is it? I thought maybe one of the girls had left the Airbnb and that it was morning time, and they had stepped out to go get coffee or to FaceTime with their family. Like, my initial thought was not a man is standing in the doorway. My sister looked at me. Her and I were sharing a bed. The bed was closest to the door. I was actually the one closest to the door. My sister looked at me and shouted really loud, "Why is there a man in our apartment?" And I kind of looked at the door and I saw him, but like, again, I was like not very oriented. So obviously we were still reorienting ourselves. He's standing in the doorway just staring at us. And she yells, "Why is there a man in the apartment?" And I said, "No, I think that's a woman." Again, I was so out of it, like still determining whether or not I'm dreaming. And she said, "No, that's a man." And then she started yelling, "Get the fuck out. You know, what are you doing here? Who are you?" And he looked very deliberate, started walking into the Airbnb towards the island. Later on, we realized that where he was walking in that general direction, that's where the knives were kept. So super creepy. As he was walking into the apartment, it was almost like he was walking in to answer the question of who he was. And he said very conversationally, not loud at all. Like, it was low volume, very calm demeanor. "You guys didn't order anything?" My sister just jumped over the top of me and was like, "Nope, get the fuck out of here. Nope." And like, he turned around and really quickly walked away. He didn't run out. He wasn't belligerent. Like, it was, yeah, it's insane.
Going on a girls trip always end bad, and I will forever go on a solo date trip with my boyfriend every year for my birthday. I felt like I did it all right. I booked the cruise in advance 5 months prior, sorted out the pricing, booked the flights. Friend number 1, a month before the trip, starts wigging out. Like, "Oh, I talked to my mom. I don't know if I should go. I don't know if I should go." So I'm telling my best friend that already told me ahead of time that she couldn't go. I'm telling her the situation, like, the girl don't know if she want to go. I don't want her to ruin the mood, like, da-da-da-da. My best friend invites herself and said, "Girl, fuck that. I just got into a settlement. I can go in her place anyway. It'll be fun." So I'm so happy, like, oh, my real best friend coming. We're going shopping. We're getting ready for the trip. I'm so excited. The night before, so at this point, my friend that was originally supposed to go, she's like, "Should I go? Should I not go?" I convinced her not to go at this point. Because I'm like, if you're confused, I'm just going to convince her not to go, because my other best friend that I'm really close with is going to go, and everything's going to be fine, and everything's going to work out. So my best friend ended up paying the money or whatever, get her spot, secure her spot. And then tell me why the night before the trip, the night before I flight to Miami, because you got to fly to the port, my best friend said she talked to her man and she feel like she shouldn't go on the cruise. So I'm like doing whatever to convince my friend, like, "Hey, like, why would you not go? Like, why would you not go? Like, the night before." Anyways, I couldn't convince her to go. So now I'm finding a alternate to replace the alternate. So she's trying to find her birth certificate, she literally got 8 hours to prepare to go on a cruise. Anyway, she ends up making it. Then I realized I booked like the wrong flights on American. She ended up getting us some flights to Delta and pieced that shit up. To this day, I don't know how she did it, but we ended up making it to that damn port, honey. She asked me, she was like, how much do I need to pay for, old girl spot? So at this point, I said, you don't got to pay nothing because she forfeit at the last minute. And when we called, they said that you can't get your money back from a cruise if you don't put insurance on it or whatever. I called them, they wasn't giving her money back, and I don't have the $500 to give because you didn't know if you was gonna come. So like, I land in Miami, I'm arguing with friend number one because she's like, why would you sit here and let her take my spot for free? I'm like, well, you said you wasn't going, you forfeit your money. If you call Carnival and tell them to get your money back, then you could do that. But as far as me making her pay, I'm not doing that because she didn't have the same courtesy of getting everything ready. Then alternate number two is like, hey, let me know when they send the money back for the flight. I'm like, they don't even give money back for the flight. But I end up disputing the flight and they end up getting my money back. So I gave her money back, her little $300 back. At this point, I'm just irritated because it's just like, I just feel like everybody was just so inconsiderate. No one cares that it's my birthday, right? But then the story gets worse. So then we're at the Bahamas and my friend that pieced up the flights is like, okay, I'm gonna do your makeup, I'm gonna do everything, we're gonna do photos, all that. We get there, she starts having a nasty ass attitude. She said that she was pregnant. Didn't even know she was pregnant. So she started wigging out because she didn't have a towel to use for the shower. But at this point, I'm just fed up and we just getting into it. And she's like, I'm about to call a ride home. I'm about to get somebody to drive to come get me, and just on the phone acting like she about to go. So then me and the other friend that's been the most nice and easy to work with this whole time, we're in the rental car. She pulls back the seat. My phone was in the crack. Didn't even think about it. And my phone shatters. So now I feel like my birthday is ruined because I can't take no pictures. My makeup is not done. Everybody's saying I'm owing them money. I done convinced this girl to stop going just for my best friend to, punk out the night before we leave. My friend that skedaddled and was able to hop on a flight in 8 hours is pregnant and she got mood swings. My other friend that gave me no type of problems ended up accidentally breaking my phone and starts crying about it because now I'm irritated. I'm like, can we go half for you to get my phone fixed? And it's just shambles. Then me and the friend that broke my phone is at the casino. We're both helping. We both playing. She won $100. Do you think that she helped me pay my phone, get my phone fixed, or you think she kept that $100? This is the thing. A lot of women are selfish and inconsiderate, moody, and I just feel like the more girls you add to a girl trip, the more stressful that shit is. If I cannot go with my man, I'm not going with nobody. And to this day, these same friends be like, can we go out of town together? And I just be like, hell fucking no.
I'm finally about to tell my horror story. So everybody got a horror story from Miami, and I do too. But my ATL experience was worse. This is my actual first story time, but I have to give like a background. So it's three of us. It's me, Aisha, my friend Kiki, and then some girl, I'm gonna call her W. So we sitting down one night during the pandemic and we like, yo, how about we go to I said Miami. How about we go to ATL tomorrow? So we like, I bet we gonna go to ATL tomorrow. So we book our flight. Well, actually, we give W the money to book our flight, right? We leave it in her hands for her to book our flight. I can't remember exactly what happened, but she dead blew ours a little bit. I think it was because we flew United or American. And then for the trip back, she got it as Frontier, which pissed us off. I think that's what it was. So we didn't actually leave the next day. We left 2 days after we booked or whatever. So W was at Kiki house doing Kiki hair, right? So cool. They hit me up. Mind you, W Ben had an attitude with me. I don't know why. I think it was because of what happened with the day before with the flights or whatever. So she has an attitude with me. She's in Kiki house doing Kiki hair. They text me. They like, do you got a hot comb? I'm like, Kiki, don't you have a hot comb? And plus I had braids. I had a braided wig. So I'm looking like I'm not trying to bring my hot comb. So that's why I'm like, don't you have a hot comb? This girl, they get on FaceTime with me. This girl, W, starts, oh, obviously, if we asking you for a hot comb, we need it, da-da-da, attitude. So I'm like, all right, let me just bring the hot comb. So I bring the hot comb, but I'm always running late. So they waiting in front of Kiki's building for me with the Uber, and they mad because I'm running late, which is understandable, right? Now they scared that we gonna miss the flight, and they like, oh, it's all your fault, we gonna miss the flight, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, well, we could just get there and then they'll put us on the next plane, right? We in the car, W got an attitude. She's sitting next to the driver. Me and Kiki are sitting in the back. So now I'm telling W, I'm like, hey, you could like check us in online. She like, no, you can't do that. You can't check in online. I'm like, we in 2021 now. You could check in online. Since we not going international, we don't have to put our bags away. And she like, no, you can't do that. So I'm like, all right, give me your phone. Give me the information. Let me check us in. So I check us in, right? She was fed up. She was like, bitches fly to Cancun and this, that, and the third, and da-da-da, and ATL, and think they know better than me because I was flying a lot that year, right? I'm like, what? All right, something is deeper than what's actually being shown, but let's get to this airport. We get to the airport. She starts bombing the airport